Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to paint a pretty landscape with lots of color. We're going to have so much fun today. So let's go over these colors and just jump into this painting. First of all, I'm working on a 9x12 canvas today. I've got some smaller canvases here in my gallery that have been sitting around for a while. I'm going to make use of them. But I think this would be a lot more fun to paint on a bigger surface. So go ahead, I recommend painting this on an even bigger size. And I'm using all of these colors today, which you can use less of or any other colors that you want. But if you're curious, I'll have a full list below in the description box of this video. I'll just name them all quickly right now for you. Neon Rose, Prism Purple Violet, Titanium White, Phthalo Blue, light blue turquoise, bright aqua green turquoise, pale green, and cadmium yellow light hue. So I'm going to go ahead and just get right into this painting, creating a multicolor background using one of my 1-inch mop brushes. And before I use that brush, what I want to do is wet my canvas. That way all the colors will spread around and blend evenly and smoothly. So just a little bit of water is all you need. Okay, now for the fun part. So I'm going to start with my pink here. I'm just going to swirl around and see how easy and pretty it looks because we've got that wet canvas underneath. Okay, then I'm going to take my purple a little bit of purple, and then blue. The next blue, this is the blue teal. Turquoise. Okay, I'm gonna rinse my brush off. This one happens to be a 1.5 inch. I'm going to go ahead and just get my brush a little bit wet just because I know that this is drying a little bit quickly. So I'm going to start right here and I'm just going to make this water. So all the colors that we have above are going to be reflective down here in the water. So I always like to do my horizon line, my water line, my sky a little bit higher or lower than going just halfway, if that makes sense. It just will look a little bit better. So here we'll have all our trees in the background, and down here we're going to have our water. So what I want to do is just take a little bit more of my pink, turquoise, maybe a little bit of white in there, and I'm just going to go from the bottom and pull up. And then across for some little streaks. I'll then take another mop brush, a 1 inch again, and this is dry. And I'm going to take just a little bit of white and I'm going to soften little circles over top of all of those other colors that I added. Okay, and then with this brush, without getting it wet, I'm going to take some of my yellow. I got a little bit of blue on there, but that's all right. I'm going to just start tapping. In fact, a little bit of that blue coming out is going to give me some shadows. I like that. I'm gonna tap, tap, tap around here. And I'm gonna pull right underneath like this for that beautiful reflection in the water. And then a very barely touching the canvas streak. Okay, the next color, a little bit of white in there, and I'll just tap a little bit of that paint out. I'm gonna tap, tap, and then turn. That way we can add a weeping willow. And I like my weeping willows to just hang down really gracefully and over the water. I'm gonna take a little bit more of my turquoise now, the blue. Oh, I love that. I love that layered, all the layers of blues and greens. And then just to make sure that that doesn't dry too dark, let's add a little bit of a white highlight. And then gentle pull and then across. I'm gonna now use a number 18 flat brush. I'll get it wet. And I'm gonna take a little bit of my rose, white, and yellow. Mix them up, make sort of a peachy skin tone. That would be a really good skin tone. And I'm just gonna start sliding my brush like this. And then just add a little arch like this. And down below for reflection in the water. A few lines. And then we'll just gently sweep off a little bit there. And then just by taking off a little bit of those lines, I've taken off some of the paint, which is actually perfect because I wanted to brighten up that background. It gives us that sense of going back there, and there's maybe some blue hydrangeas. I'm just going to come along the side here and soften this. Okay, same brush, but yellow, white, and green. All I'm going to do is just tap, tap, tap. See how you can use, we'll use a little bit of that pale green as well. How you can use a flat brush just by tapping like this. Up and down, different lengths. Right over the water. We'll add a few here. That way we still have those blurry, soft looking ones. And I'm going to add a little reflection in the water just by tapping gently and then pulling, because that will, these little pulls will give us that ripple that you get in the water with your reflections. And it all depends on how much movement you have in the water as well. Like if you want, you can add more or less. Okay, I'm just going to come in with a little bit of my purple and phthalo now. Dark color here. And I'm going to come along. Ooh, I love that. And then right underneath here. I'm going to take a little bit more. I'm going to go in between some of these areas here and add some more depth in the water. More shadows. These rich tones combined with all the pastel colors and all the vibrant colors that we're using all help to bring out the life in this painting and the contrast. Okay, I'm going to set that brush aside, and then I'm going to use a number 2 Filbert brush now. This is a little one, and I'm just going to take some of that white and turquoise, the teal blue, or actually I'm pretty much out of that bright aqua green one, so I'm just going to use this one, and I'm just going to carefully place my pinky here and then go across. A few little arches like that. And then a little tap, tap, tap. And a little bit in the water. Less in the water though. And I'm going to take a little bit of my blue, teal, purple, and some white. And I'll just add a few little taps in here. What you want to do after you paint your bridge is really just set it in there, you know, have some little plants at the base. So that sets it in there and makes it look a little farther away. And then I just want to take the blue, teal, and a little bit of purple. Maybe just add a little bit of a shadow here. A few extra shadows and highlights. Reflections. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more to these weeping willows. Add a little bit more of that pale green and white. We'll make a few of these a little bit thicker. If you add a little bit of water to your brush, you can really loosen that paint up. And gently pull and flick down like you're making, you know, like we're painting waterfalls. It'll give you the same look. And then some reflections in the water. You can go tap, tap, tap like that across. You can also pull down. I like to do a little bit of both. I'm gonna add a bit more green. And a little bit more of this blue. I just love it. I love all these rich colors together. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit more of this peachy color here. I'm going to add some light to the sky. Just gently go over some of these areas here just by wiggling, and I'm going to bring it over part of the foliage there, the little bushes. This is just going to soften the background up a little bit, and then I want to make sure that I'm going to add just a little bit more here. I'm going to add a little bit down in the water too. Side to side, little ripples, and then a dry brush with the remainder of it. Add some back here where that light would be hitting a little bit more further back there. And then I'm just going to take my flat brush here, soften. My flat brush is a little bit wet, so that's going to help me blend. I think what would work even better than that is a little dry, soft mop brush. Let's add a little bit more. I know it'll dry darker because the colors underneath are darker. So be a little bit more generous. You can even gently pull down. Don't be afraid to pick up any of the colors there on the side. And then I'm going to continue with this brush here, and I'm just going to add some kind of a dark tree trunk suggestion back here. You could use a liner brush for this as well. And then I'll add some weeping willow leaves over top, letting a little bit of that purple mix in. I'm going to take a little bit more of my turquoise and white. And then just tidy this up a little bit. And I'm going to add, I just really like this purple, so I'm going to add a little bit more purple down in here. Pick up a little bit of phthalo, mix that in, and that can make a really nice cooler shade of purple. Right, the violet one is a warmer shade. So because I've been having so much fun lately with painting flowers, I think I'm going to have some flowers here in the foreground. And I'm thinking some hydrangeas, so I'm going to take my both blue teal and phthalo, and maybe I'll have one right here. So I'm just going to paint a circle, misshapen, right? Doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Don't overthink things too much when you're painting. I want to mention that too. I've been meaning to mention that because a lot of us can get caught up in overthinking little things. I'm going to take a little bit more of the phthalo. Okay, now I'm just going to take some white, a little bit of any of that purple that's left. And I'm just going to start creating little dabs. If you're really out for a shape of the petals on hydrangeas, the best way to describe it, I guess, is like a rounded diamond shape, and there's typically 4 petals on hydrangeas. Now I just put out a couple of videos on hydrangea flowers. They're so much fun to paint, so I recommend checking them out, and you'll really get a good tutorial, step-by-step breakdown of those. You'll love it. And if you don't want to paint them, you'll just enjoy watching it come together. So I'm just adding little taps and dabs here and there, and then it'll just all those taps and dabs add up to one hydrangea flower. Then there's, just with a little bit of white, we're not going to see the center of all the flowers, but we can just add a little dab to a few areas, and that will give us even more of the look of a hydrangea. And not only watching how I'm painting the flowers with just the end of the brush, watch what I do with my fingers and my wrist as well, because all of that plays a role. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next one now, and I'm going to take rose and phthalo, And I think I'll add one right here. And then I'll add another one over here. So I'll just get that base down there. I'm going to paint these a little bit quicker because I don't want the paint to dry. I like to use the wet paint. I like to dab into it with my lighter colors. Okay, push, tap, push, tap. I'm going outside of the circle. Now if you don't have a Filbert brush, I really recommend, I usually say you can use another brush for this, any other brush will work. Not in this case. I recommend having a Filbert brush in order to paint these flowers with the most ease. If you prefer the way I'm painting them and you like this look. And I'm not using any expensive brushes. I just get mine from Amazon. These ones don't even have a name on them. I just get they come in a set, so there's all these different sizes. And I think it was like $20 for 15 of them. And then I also get the flat brushes from the same site. I'll try to find the link. I haven't needed to order any for a long time because they last so long. So I don't even know, you never know, right? With Amazon, sometimes things aren't there when you go back. But my point is, you definitely need some Filbert brushes, different sizes, and they don't have to be expensive. I want to just make sure when you're mixing your paint, you work it out from the brush because it builds up. And I want to have a few that I just twist and turn like this because there's petals and flowers from different angles, especially growing in a round shape and mass like this. So it's not, I know people get really intimidated by painting flowers, especially when they have a lot of petals. It's not about each and every single flower you paint. It's about accumulation of all of the little taps and dabs that make the flower, and then a little dab, a little dot of white on, 3 or 4, depending on the size of the flower. So I'll add a little bit more wherever I've got some bigger flowers. I've just got to go back to this bridge back here because I need to add another line on top here. I'm gonna mix up my green and teal there just to make it a little bit darker. And then on hydrangeas, some of them haven't changed color yet. Some of them end up having a little bit of a greenish tinge to them. I like to add that. A lot of people forget about that and just concentrate on the really colorful blue, the pretty colors. But I don't like to leave that out because I think this helps to make them look a little more true to what they are and how they grow. So just a little bit here and there. You don't need a whole lot. And again, I'm just going to tap in a little bit of foliage here. There down at the base. Maybe just a little bit of white and yellow in here. A little bit more light up in the sky. And then just before I call this painting done, I'll add a little bit more of this pretty rose. A few little dabs here and there. It's just such a joy to work with pretty colors. Don't ever be afraid of color, and I hope that by watching my channel you guys are getting a little bit more brave about color. I'm going to take a little bit of white with that rose just because we've got so much pink there. I want to add a little bit down here. Right, just to match that. If you wanted to add a little bit of greenery for some leaves, you could. I love this combination of the pale green and the phthalo. And then I'll just take a little bit of my white. Mix that white in there because the edges of them are always a little bit lighter. Pull in a little bit. Rather than make it too light on the outside, I think I'll add more depth on the inside of the flower and closest to those flower petals. Then I'll mix all the color up on my brush with a little bit of white. Just a little bit more of that. And finish off here with a few darker flower petals right next to it. Okay, well, this was such a joy to paint. I'm glad I got to share it with you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon in my next video. Bye, everybody.